stop waiting for the end of the month to see what is left in your bank account. Most people treat savings like a lucky accident, hoping there is a surplus after the bills and impulse buys are done. This traditional approach is exactly why you feel stuck in a cycle of constant financial stress. What if I told you that everything you have been taught about managing money is fundamentally backwards? There is a hidden strategy that turns the entire formula on its head to make building wealth completely effortless. You do not need more willpower or a complex spreadsheet to finally watch your balance grow. For decades, we have been fed the same tired advice of tracking every single penny. This conventional wisdom suggests that you should spend your month meticulously recording receipts and fighting every urge to buy a coffee. It creates a mental prison where money feels like a source of constant restriction rather than freedom. This outdated system relies entirely on the hope that you will have something left over when the end of the month rolls around. Unfortunately, human psychology works against this logic through a concept known as Parkinson's law. We naturally expand our lifestyle to consume every dollar available in our sight, leaving nothing for the future. The standard formula of income minus expenses equals savings is a recipe for perpetual disappointment. It treats your financial goals as an afterthought or a secondary priority to your utility bills and grocery runs. By putting yourself last, you are essentially telling your brain that your dreams are less important than your current impulses. This traditional approach was born in a time when life moved much slower and cash was the only way to pay. In that world, physically seeing your envelope empty was enough to stop the spending. Today, the digital world has made it far too easy to swipe away your entire future without even noticing. Our modern environment is designed by experts to make us spend money as quickly and frictionlessly as possible. One-click purchases and targeted ads are constantly hunting for that surplus you promised to save. Fighting these multi-billion-dollar algorithms with just your willpower is a battle you are destined to lose. You likely know the sinking feeling of checking your mobile banking app a few days before payday. Even if you earned a decent salary, the numbers never seem to reflect the hard work you put in. This cycle of earning and disappearing creates a heavy cloud of anxiety that follows you into every store. Most financial gurus tell you to just work harder or cut out the things that actually bring you joy. They blame your lack of discipline for the fact that your savings account is stagnant. But the truth is that you are not the problem. The outdated operating system you are using is simply broken. We have been conditioned to believe that building wealth requires suffering and complex mathematical equations. This misconception keeps millions of people stuck in a paycheck-to-paycheck loop regardless of how much they earn. It is time to stop playing a game that was rigged against your natural instincts from the very start. This broken system relies on a concept called Parkinson's law, which suggests that your expenses will always expand to meet your income. When you see a full balance at the start of the month, your brain perceives it as permission to spend. This biological drive makes traditional budgeting feel like an uphill battle against your own evolution. For decades, the standard financial advice has followed a linear path that prioritizes everyone else before you. You pay the landlord, the utility company, and the grocery store while hoping for a miracle at the end. This reactive mindset forces you to survive on crumbs rather than building a foundation for your future. Most people try to fix this by tracking every single cent in a complicated spreadsheet that eventually gets abandoned. These tools focus on the math but completely ignore the emotional reality of how we actually use money. You cannot solve a behavioral problem with a static document that only highlights your past mistakes. The shift began when high performers realized that willpower is a finite resource that drains throughout the day. Instead of fighting their impulses, they started designing systems that automate the right decisions before temptation could even strike. They moved from being the managers of their debt to the architects of their wealth. This transition changed the definition of a bill from something you owe an external company to something you owe yourself. By treating your future self as the most important creditor, the entire psychological pressure of saving disappears instantly. You no longer have to decide to save because the decision has already been made for you. Understanding this fundamental flaw in the old way of thinking is the first step toward true financial freedom. Once you stop fighting your nature and start working with it, the results happen almost automatically. Now, let's look at how this simple reversal creates a permanent shortcut to the life you actually want to live. This shortcut is known as the reverse budget, a radical departure from everything you have been told. Instead of looking at what is left over, you decide your future first and let the rest of your life fit into the remaining space. It is a simple flip that changes your bank account from a source of stress into a machine for growth. The traditional formula of income minus expenses equals savings is fundamentally flawed because it places your goals at the very end of the line. By the time you reach that final step, the money has already vanished into 1,000 tiny distractions. The reverse budget fixes this by using the formula of income minus savings equals expenses. This shift feels like a jolt to the system because it forces you to treat your savings as a non-negotiable obligation. You stop being a passive observer of your finances and start acting like the CEO of your own life. This is the exact moment where the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck begins to crumble. Imagine the relief of knowing that your financial future is already secured the moment your paycheck hits your account. You no longer have to spend the entire month performing mental gymnastics to see if you can afford a night out. The conflict between your current desires and your future security is finally resolved. When you pay yourself first, you are essentially sending a message to your brain that your dreams are a priority. You treat your savings contribution with the same urgency as your rent or your car payment. This mental reclassification removes the need for willpower because the money is gone before you can even think about spending it. This discovery creates a sense of total freedom that most people never get to experience with traditional budgeting. Once your future self is paid, every single dollar remaining in your account is yours to spend without a shred of guilt. You can enjoy your lifestyle knowing that your wealth is building itself in the background. The beauty of this reversal is that it works with your natural human tendencies rather than fighting against them. You no longer need to track every cup of coffee or feel bad about a spontaneous dinner with friends. The system is designed to be lazy-friendly because it handles the heavy lifting at the very start of the month. This is the irreversible change that separates those who struggle from those who thrive. By making one small adjustment to the order of your transactions, you bypass the psychological traps that keep most people broke. You are no longer hoping for a surplus, you are guaranteeing your success from day one. This guarantee is the foundation of the reverse budget, a radical shift that forces you to treat your savings like an unavoidable bill. Instead of waiting for leftovers, you move your target amount to a separate account the second your paycheck hits. This simple act of subtraction creates an immediate and healthy scarcity in your main spending account. Suddenly, the mental math you do every day changes from how much you can spend to how much you actually have left. You are essentially tricking your brain into seeing a smaller balance, which triggers a natural instinct to be more resourceful. This psychological boundary removes the guilt associated with spending because everything remaining is yours to enjoy without worry. The moment you implement this, you realize that the old way was actually a form of self-sabotage designed to keep you in debt. You stop being a passive observer of your bank account and become the active director of your financial destiny. This shift is irreversible because once you see how fast your wealth can grow, going back to the old struggle feels impossible. You no longer have to choose between living for today and preparing for tomorrow because the system balances both for you. It creates a friction-free path where your future is funded before you even have a chance to talk yourself out of it. This is the exact point where the stress of the unknown transforms into the confidence of a proven plan. However, the initial rush of excitement often hits a wall the moment you try to set your first savings target. You might feel tempted to pick a massive, ambitious number to make up for lost time. This overenthusiasm is the first trap that leads many beginners to fail before they even truly start. When you try to redirect half of your income into savings overnight, your lifestyle experiences a violent shock. Your brain perceives this sudden drop in spending power as a direct threat to your comfort and security. This internal alarm system triggers a sense of deprivation that makes the entire process feel like a punishment rather than a win. You might even hear the voices of skeptical friends or family members telling you that this approach is simply unrealistic. They argue that your fixed costs are too high and that life is far too expensive for such a bold move. These external doubts can easily feed into your own insecurities, making you question if you are actually capable of this change. Just as you commit to this new path, an unexpected bill or a minor emergency usually decides to make an appearance. It feels like the universe is testing your resolve to see if you will revert to your old, comfortable habits. Without a clear strategy for these hiccups, it is incredibly easy to raid your new savings account just to keep your head above water. Many people make the mistake of trying to manage this entire process manually every single month. They rely on their memory to move the money, but life has a way of getting in the way of even the best intentions. This friction creates a window of opportunity for your old spending habits to sneak back in and reclaim those funds. As you begin to tighten the belt on your remaining balance, you start to notice the invisible leaks in your finances. Those forgotten subscriptions and recurring memberships suddenly become glaring obstacles to your new daily budget. You realize that your money has been bleeding out through dozens of small, unnoticed wounds for years. Seeing a lower balance in your main account can trigger a strange sense of panic, even if you know the money is safe elsewhere. This phantom poverty is a psychological barrier that requires a total shift in how you perceive your available wealth. It is the uncomfortable middle ground where your old identity is fighting against the person you are becoming. These initial struggles are not signs of failure, but rather the necessary friction of breaking a lifelong cycle. You are finally uncovering the specific habits and triggers that have kept you stuck in the paycheck-to-paycheck loop for so long. Now that the barriers are visible, you can begin to dismantle them one by one to make the system truly bulletproof. The first real test usually arrives mid-month when an unexpected expense or a tempting sale catches you off guard. You might find yourself staring at your savings account, rationalizing a quick transfer back to your checking to cover the gap. This internal negotiation is the most dangerous part of the process because it treats your future as an interest-free loan for your present whims. As you navigate this new scarcity, you will likely discover automated subscriptions and forgotten memberships that were previously hidden in the noise. These tiny financial leaks become glaringly obvious when your spending limit is tighter and more intentional. You realize that your money hasn't just been disappearing, it has been slowly drained by 1,000 small decisions you never consciously made. Friends and family might also become an unintended obstacle as they invite you to events that don't fit your new, predetermined spending plan. Saying no feels like a social failure, leading many to abandon the reverse budget before it even has a chance to take root. You start to see that managing your money is less about math and more about managing the expectations of the people around you. Through these initial errors, you begin to understand that willpower alone is still not enough to protect your progress. You might hypothesize that the only way to truly succeed is to make the savings account as difficult to access as possible. This discovery leads to the realization that the system needs a physical and digital barrier to keep your impulses from sabotaging your long-term success. Building this barrier isn't about a lack of trust in yourself, but rather acknowledging the reality of human psychology. We are biologically wired to spend what we see, a phenomenon known as Parkinson's law applied to personal finance. By creating a digital distance between your daily spending and your future wealth, you are simply outsmarting your own primitive brain. You might argue that your income is simply too low to make this work right now. This is the most common trap because it assumes that a higher salary will magically solve a behavioral problem. In reality, without a system in place, your expenses will almost always rise to meet your new income level, leaving you exactly where you started. Society has conditioned us to believe that debt is a tool and savings are an afterthought. We are bombarded with messages telling us that we deserve a better lifestyle today at the expense of our freedom tomorrow. Breaking away from this mindset feels like swimming against a powerful current that everyone else seems to be floating down comfortably. Many people confuse an emergency fund with the growth-focused savings of a reverse budget. While having a safety net is essential, the reverse budget is about building a foundation for true wealth, not just avoiding disaster. It shifts your focus from merely surviving the next crisis to actively designing a life where work becomes optional. The confrontation begins when you realize that even a tiny, seemingly insignificant amount can break the cycle of dependency. Starting with just $20 a paycheck might feel pointless, but it establishes the neural pathways of a wealth builder. It is the consistency of the action, not the initial size of the contribution, that rewires your financial identity. To make this system bulletproof, you must intentionally add friction to the process of spending your savings. This could mean using a different bank entirely or choosing an account that doesn't come with a convenient debit card. When you make it difficult to sabotage yourself, you give your logical mind time to override your impulsive desires. Traditional budgeting fails because it requires constant, exhausting vigilance over every cent. You spend hours categorizing past mistakes instead of focusing on future opportunities. The reverse budget eliminates this mental fatigue by automating the most important decision and letting the rest of your life happen naturally. As you dig deeper into this method, you start to see that the real struggle isn't with the numbers on the screen. It is a confrontation with your own values and the vision you have for your future self. You are finally forced to decide if the temporary thrill of a purchase is worth more than the permanent peace of financial independence. This internal conflict is where most people give up, retreating to the safety of their old, chaotic habits. They mistake the temporary discomfort of a smaller spending balance for a lack of resources. In reality, you are simply learning to navigate the boundaries of your true financial reality for the first time. The myth that tracking every penny leads to wealth is a trap that keeps you focused on the past. While others are drowning in spreadsheets and receipts, you are looking forward with a clear and focused mind. This efficiency allows you to stop obsessing over small costs and start focusing on the growth of your net worth. To win this battle, you must create a system that is smarter than your weakest moments. By adding layers of complexity to how you access those savings, you build a digital fortress around your future. This intentional friction turns a momentary impulse into a deliberate choice, giving your logical brain the time it needs to override your emotional desires. As you lean into this process, your identity begins to shift from a consumer to an investor. You no longer see your paycheck as a pile of money to be exhausted, but as a collection of capital to be deployed. This profound change in perspective is the secret weapon that makes the reverse budget feel less like a chore and more like a competitive advantage. With your mindset shifted and your automation in place, it finally feels like you've cracked the code. The stress of tracking every latte and utility bill has vanished, replaced by the quiet hum of a system that works while you sleep. You might think the battle is won and that your financial freedom is now an inevitable conclusion. However, after a few months of smooth sailing, a strange new sensation begins to settle in. The initial thrill of seeing your savings grow starts to fade into the background of your daily routine. You've reached a plateau where the system is working, but the explosive progress you expected seems to have leveled off. It is at this point that most people decide they have done enough and stop looking for ways to improve. You feel comfortable, and in the world of finance, comfort is often the silent killer of true wealth. You might even start to loosen the rules, thinking that your new habits are strong enough to withstand a little bit of old-school indulgence. You look at your growing balance and tell yourself that the mission is accomplished. The reverse budget has done its job, and you are now officially better off than the vast majority of people around you. It feels like the end of the story, a successful conclusion to a journey that started with nothing but a simple formula. But then, you realize that while your savings are growing, your lifestyle hasn't actually changed for the better. You are saving money, but you are still trading your time for every single dollar that enters your account. The system has secured your future, yet it has left your present self trapped in the same cycle of labor. This realization hits like a ton of bricks, making all your hard work feel like a hollow victory. You've built a fortress, but you are still the one standing guard every single day without a break. It feels as though you've simply traded one form of financial anxiety for a more organized version of the same struggle. Maybe this is just how it's supposed to be, and the dream of effortless wealth was just a marketing gimmick. You might be tempted to give up on the system entirely, believing that you've reached the ceiling of what is possible for someone in your position. It seems the journey ends here, with a decent savings account but no real path to true liberation. Just as you are ready to accept this mediocre fate, you discover the one missing component that changes everything. Saving the money was only the first half of the equation, and without the second half, your capital is just sitting idle. You are about to uncover the multiplier effect that turns your stagnant savings into an aggressive, self-sustaining wealth machine. This multiplier isn't about chasing high-risk stocks or waiting for a lucky break in the market. It is about understanding the velocity of your capital and how to keep it moving toward your goals. You begin to see that while your savings are safe, they are essentially dormant, losing their purchasing power to the silent thief of inflation. This discovery can feel like a profound disappointment after all the hard work you've put into mastering your spending habits. You've built the discipline and the structure, yet the math still suggests that true freedom is decades away. It is at this exact moment that most people give up, convinced that they have reached the absolute limit of what is possible. However, the reverse budget was never intended to be the final destination of your financial journey. It was merely the foundation, the stable platform upon which you must now build an aggressive offensive strategy. You have been playing a perfect game of defense, but you have yet to score a single point in the game of wealth creation. The final piece of the puzzle is a radical shift in how you deploy that first payment to create automated income streams. Once you unlock this layer, your money stops being a static number and becomes a workforce that never sleeps. You are finally ready to move beyond the safety of the bank account and into the world of true financial leverage. This leverage begins the moment you stop viewing your reverse budget as a stagnant pool of cash and start seeing it as a fleet of workers. Each dollar you pay yourself first is a soldier you are sending out to capture more territory in the form of dividends and compound growth. You aren't just hiding money away from your impulses, you are fueling a machine that will eventually replace your salary entirely. The beauty of this system is that it requires no more effort than the initial setup of your automation. By directing that first payment into diversified assets, you remove the need for expert knowledge or constant market monitoring. You have effectively bridged the gap between a disciplined saver and a sophisticated investor without changing a single daily habit. This is where the psychological battle is finally won because you are no longer sacrificing your present for an uncertain future. You can finally see the math working in real time, proving that your wealth is growing exponentially rather than linearly. The anxiety of not having enough evaporates as you realize that your automated system is doing the heavy lifting while you simply live your life. Traditional finance wants you to wait until you are ready to invest, but the reverse budget proves that readiness is a myth created by those who profit from your hesitation. By making the investment mandatory and immediate, you bypass the paralysis of analysis that keeps most people stuck in a cycle of perpetual planning. You are finally taking the offensive, using the very same automation that saved you from overspending to catapult you into true wealth. You don't need to be a financial genius to achieve this level of mastery. The simplicity of the reverse budget is its greatest strength, allowing you to ignore the noise of the nightly news and the volatility of the markets. Your only job is to keep the system running, letting the power of compounding interest turn your consistent contributions into a mountain of capital. The grand revelation is that the reverse budget isn't actually about the money at all, it is about reclaiming your time. Every automated payment you make is a purchase of your future freedom, buying back hours, days, and eventually years of your life. You are no longer working for a paycheck, but rather working to increase the size of your autonomous workforce. While everyone else is still trapped in the exhausting cycle of tracking pennies and feeling guilty about their lifestyle, you are operating on a completely different plane. You have successfully decoupled your income from your effort, creating a gap that grows wider with every passing month. This is the ultimate resolution to the conflict between your desire for a good life and your need for financial security. You have now mastered the art of paying yourself first and the science of putting that money to work automatically. The foundation is solid, the machine is running, and the path to total independence is finally clear. You are standing on the threshold of a new reality where money is no longer a source of stress, but a tool for total self-expression. This transformation occurs because you have finally removed the human element of error from your financial equation. By treating your future self as your most important recurring bill, you have forced your lifestyle to adapt to your goals rather than the other way around. This is the exact moment where the friction of saving vanishes and the momentum of compound growth takes over. All the components we have discussed, from the psychological barriers to the automated multiplier, now work in perfect harmony. You no longer need to choose between enjoying your life today and being secure tomorrow. The reverse budget has resolved that ancient conflict by making your success mandatory and your daily spending entirely guilt-free. You are now witnessing the true power of this system as it compounds beyond your initial expectations. What started as a simple shift in a mathematical formula has evolved into a self-sustaining engine of personal freedom. The invisible chains of paycheck-to-paycheck living have been permanently replaced by a fortress of capital that grows even when you are not looking. This is the ultimate victory over the traditional financial norms that kept you stagnant and stressed for years. You have successfully flipped the script and claimed absolute ownership over your time and your future. The journey from a hopeful saver to a strategic wealth builder is complete, and the rewards are now yours to keep forever. This newfound freedom isn't just about the numbers in your bank account, it's about the peace of mind that comes when you stop worrying about the next bill. You've built a legacy of discipline that transforms your relationship with every dollar you earn. The reverse budget has turned your financial life from a source of anxiety into a source of quiet, unstoppable power. Now, you are no longer just surviving the economy, you are thriving within it on your own terms. Your friends and family will notice a shift in your confidence as you navigate life without the weight of debt or the fear of the unknown. This is the ultimate proof that a simple change in perspective can lead to a lifetime of abundance and security. But while mastering your cash flow is the foundation, the next challenge is protecting that wealth from the hidden forces that seek to erode it. Even the best budget can be undermined if you don't understand how to shield your assets from unnecessary taxes and fees. You've learned how to accumulate, but now you must learn how to defend what you've built. The journey doesn't end with a full savings account, it evolves into a quest for total financial sovereignty. In our next session, we will dive into the specific strategies that the wealthy use to keep their money growing regardless of market conditions. Stay tuned, because the transition from a saver to a protector is where your true legacy begins.